thank you very much for attending the licensing committee to subcommittee to determine the licence application for 27 Station Road, Swanage. Thank you for attending. My name is Councillor John Andrews and I represent Sheridan. I will ask my other two councillors to introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Councillor Sarah Williams.
And I'm Councillor Brian Heatley from Robert Wyke, Weymouth.
Thank you very much. Now, we have to go through the agenda items, and the first item on the agenda is the election of chairman for the meeting. Have we got any proposal?
Can I nominate Councillor Councillor Andrews, please? Sorry.
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you very much. With that little piece out of the way, I'll ask for apologies. Any apologies for the meeting?
Thank you. We have apologies from Councillors Cathy Lugg and David Morgan, and they are being substituted by Councillor Heatley and Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much. I'll now ask all the officers to introduce themselves. So we'll start our desk here. So we'll start with Elaine.
Morning, I'm Elaine Tibble. I'm a Senior Democratic Services Officer for Dorset Council.
I'm Phil Crowther. I'm the committee's legal advisor.
I'm Hayley Taylor, Democratic Services.
Catherine Miller, Senior Licensing Officer.
Thank you very much, everybody. Now I'll ask the representative with the licence application people to introduce themselves.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Anthony Glancy, Director of GDogs Bar.
I'm Paige Glancy, also Director of GDogs Bar.
Thank you. And the people representations have been made by several people, including the two local members. So can you introduce yourselves, please?
Good morning, I'm Gary Subble. I'm Gary Subble. I'm the Dorset Councillor for Swanage, One North.
Thank you. I'm Bill Trout. I'm the other Swanage Councillor for Dorset Council.
Hi there, my name's Ed Robertson. I live opposite the premises.
Thank you, everybody. So there's a few things to go through. So the meeting will take place and the licensing team leader will outline the application. We all have opportunities, the councillors and the licence holder, the responsible parties and any person that made a representation to ask questions of that report that the officer is going to write on. Next, I will ask the applicant to put their case forward, and once again, questions can come from all the parties involved. And any responsible bodies, I don't think there is anybody today, police haven't come today. And then finally, I'll ask anybody that's made a representation to speak to say what they've got to say. So, bearing in mind, we've all read the reports and the emails that have come through from both the responsible and the applicant, so both the objectors and the applicant. So we're all well briefed on the circumstances, but naturally there will be questions that we ask. It's just that we want everybody to think they've had a fair hearing this morning, all right? So that's why we do it that way. Have we covered everything there, legal representative, yet so far? Thank you. Sorry. Oh yeah, sorry. So we'll move on to the next one, which is on the agenda, which is declarations of interest. Have any of our councillors got any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Urgent items? Any urgent items? No urgent items. So we'll move on to item 5, which is the new premises licence application for 27 Station Road. I'll ask Catherine to outline the case and the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This hearing is to consider a new premises licence application for 27 Station Road in Swanage. The applicant has applied for recorded music indoors, Monday to Sunday, from 11 a.m. to 2300 hours. Supply of alcohol on the premises, Monday to Sunday, 11 a.m. to 2300 hours. Dorset Police have requested additional conditions to which the applicant has agreed to, and these can be found at Appendix 2. Planning has also made a comment regarding the planning use, which I know the applicant is aware of, that they would probably need a change of use if the licence was granted. There were 3 representations against the application received from members of the public and the ward members, and these are at Appendix 3. Following these representations, the applicant provided the interested parties with the policies he intends to implement if the licence is granted, and these can be found at Appendix 4. In relation to noise from music, under the Live Music Act of 2012, live music and recorded music is not to be regarded as regulated entertainment where the premises permits a sale of alcohol on the premises between the hours of 0800 and 2300, and the audience does not exceed 500. Therefore, noise-related conditions cannot be placed on the licence if granted. I'd like to remind members that the options available to them today are to grant a licence subject to such conditions as the authority considers appropriate for the promotion of the licence objectives and the mandatory conditions, to exclude from the scope of the licence any of the licensable activities to which the application relates, to refuse to specify a person in the licence as a designated premises supervisor, or to reject the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Councillors, any questions for Catherine? Applicant, any Mr. Clancy? No? No? Any questions from this side? No? Very much. So we'll move on now to the applicant will present their case. So if you'd like to present the case, Mr. Clancy, that'd be good. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So, yeah, I'm here to just say that this is a dynamic business. It's always changing. Like, we're operating as a coffee bar that sells alcohol. We've been trading under a temporary event notice for Swanage Carnival Week. We haven't had any trouble, no noise complaints. We're providing a calm, relaxed social place for people to come, have a good time, and sort of a safe place as well, somewhere you can just come, chill out, have a coffee, have a tea, hot chocolate, and if they want a beer, they can have a beer. So we want to introduce food as well in the future. A friend of mine, he's got his own coffee brand, so we're trying to support veterans as well. We want to do a blue light night, so give discount to the emergency services. So that's the kind of demographic we're looking for. With, you know, the emergency services, we've got the Ireland Line. We want to bring them in, give them a discount, give them a place to come, chill out. Veterans brew ups, you know, coffee mornings, stuff like that. What else? That's all I can say really. It's been open for the last 2 weeks. It says what it needs to say really. We're happy with what we're doing and we want to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clancy. So, have I got any questions from Councillor Williams?
Just a question. Obviously, you'll have some smokers coming into the premises. Do you have a smoking area, or do they have to go onto the street to smoke?
So just outside, we've put a little smoking tin outside. Only 4 people are allowed out in the front at one time. It's on our premises, yeah. So there is a section.
And any sort of, do you have a policy to go and sweep the street in your area after closing?
Sorry. Yeah, we do have a policy. We go out in the morning, sweep the street, pick up any litter, any fag butts we get rid of. We do that during the day as well, over the course of the day, along with our glass policy. It's sort of alongside that.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like a slightly fuller picture of what this place is going to be like and what your clientele will be and so on. I mean, you've talked in terms of tea and hot chocolate and coffee mornings, but in the evening, how is this going to be different from a pub? I just want a fuller picture of what it's like.
So so we're sort of going for it as a whole team. Friends, the TV shows, like the coffee shop, they're there all the time. So you can drink tea, coffee, and come and chat, and it's just a social, relaxed atmosphere with low music, low lights. So people do drink there, but it's not like a pub.
Sorry. Our aim is to not be like the other side of town, which is why we chose to go to the opposite side of the town. We didn't want to have like a nightclub sort of thing. We have families in, we do free squash and things for children. We want families to be able to come in and enjoy themselves without having to go to a nightclub down the road or anything like that. We're striving to be the complete opposite of the other side of the town. We want to be somewhere that's relaxing. It's somewhere you can go and enjoy yourselves without the loud music, without the disco balls and all of that. We wanted to be the opposite of them, hence why we chose the opposite end of the town.
Yeah, Councillor Lee.
Okay, I understand that as an aspiration, but it's not entirely in your hands. How are you going to control that? The fact that alcohol becomes available in a particular part of the town, which is a lot more convenient to some people, may well encourage people who have got a rather noisier evening in mind to come along to you. How are you going to maintain it?
So through our policies, obviously I've written so many, but yeah, so through our policies we will police that. So if we stick to the policies and we're quite strict with it, then people, when they're getting too drunk, I'm sorry, we can't serve you, it's time for you to go home. Yeah, it's a no drunk policy, no drunk.
I've got just one or two. So how are you going to police the no smoking and no glass rule? Is that, are you yourselves going to be working in the premises? Anybody else? I don't know, because if you're busy with 80 customers in the bar, how are you going to have time to police what's going out through the door and the amount of smokers that are out there?
So it's a small area. So from the bar, you can see everything. So if it is busy, there's us two working, you can go out and you can say, look, you're keeping it too noisy, keep noise down. All right, there's too many people out here, sorry, you're going to have to come in. It's so, yeah, it is condensed. It's a very small area, it's very manageable.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I've got any more questions for now, so I'll wait till later if I have got any more. So thank you very much for that. So any more questions? So questions for the objectors. Have you got any questions for the applicant? Pull the mic over.
I know that Anthony's just mentioned that they're trying to promote selling teas and coffees and stuff. I just thought I'd point out that there's been an A-board in front of the property clearly marking that it's a wine bar and with no real mention to the coffees and teas, and also the property doesn't seem to have been opened earlier than 12 o'clock in the day. So I just thought I'd point that
out. Could I ask the applicants how long they've lived in Swanage and how long they've been associated with business in Swanage?
I moved to Swanage when I was 3, and I have lived there for my whole life until I met Tony, when we got married, he was in the army, so we moved every year. And then when he left the army, I returned to Swanage about 3 years ago.
2019.
Yeah, 2019. When Tony left the army, we came back to Swanage. We've spent all of our holidays when Tony was in the army in Swanage. That's where I've grown up. I went to school there.
All our families there, so it was the right move to go back and be with family. With the business side, I was a kitchen fitter. I worked in Weymouth. I haven't owned my own business, but this is my first time. I think I'm doing all right, and I think we can move forward.
Could I just ask a second question? Are the applicants aware of the history in Swanage over several decades of bar-only premises, which are normally peaceful places, but eventually there tends to be trouble of one sort or another afflicting any given premises you like to know, and that it's been very difficult to avoid that happening at some point. Now, are you aware that in Station Road, as opposed to the High Street, where we have the bars, bar-only premises, are you aware that in Station Road there is a very high residential element? Far more people live in Station Road than would appear to the casual observer. And given that there is inevitably a modest amount of problems associated with bar-only premises at some point or another, then how can you be confident then that this will not apply to these premises, given the very high residential element within the street who will suffer as a result of trouble?
So, yes, we are aware it's a residential area. We've been speaking to people that live above us. They're quite happy with us, so I haven't got an official statement off of them, but we can get one. They don't hear us. You know, the noise is not too high for them. They're happy with us. And with crime and alcohol brings crime and nuisance and whatever, but that's why we have policies. Like, I can't say that someone's going to walk in and cause trouble. I can't prevent them people from walking through the door before something's happened. That I can't do that.
You can get that anywhere.
Anywhere.
Absolutely anywhere.
And it's
unfortunately.
We will work by our policies to prevent crime and nuisance and noise and nuisance and stuff like that. But if it's going to happen, it will happen.
Could I just also say, sorry, about the board? I have a photo of the board and it definitely does say teas, coffees, free squash for children. So it has been advertised and I have photos if you'd like to see them.
Councillor Sowell.
Thank you, Chair. Can we just go back to the smoking area? Because I don't know if you have a plan of within your papers. However, it's a very limited space, isn't it? And you're going to have a great deal of difficulty. And our real worry and concern here is the nuisance to neighbours and noise, which I can understand you're trying to address. But if you get a number of people outside who've had a few to drink and smoking, they're going to be very difficult to police. They're going to be on the pavement. It's right next to one of only going to be 2 cash points left in Swanage. So you're going to get ordinary people, I'm not saying people are not ordinary who go for a drink, because I definitely like one myself. But it's also, on the opposite side of the street, we have the supermarket. So you have families, etc., popping over, getting money, going into a supermarket, mums doing shopping, etc. And that's why it would appear, but a little bit out of context, coming into Station Road with this type of business. And we applaud anyone who wants to start business in Swanage. We really do. But we're just concerned that this is out of context. And going just quickly, my starting point is, The smoking area really doesn't exist because they'll be stood on the pavement. They haven't got a plan. The front of the building, I know you own a little strip, but they're not going to stand there, are they? Let's be realistic. They're going to stand on the pavement. You know? So, and I don't see how you're going to police that at all.
Well, like we said before, we do only allow 4 people out. We have been trading for a couple of weeks already, and we have stuck by that. So, you know, I think being open for 2 weeks, it kind of speaks for itself, how we haven't caused any noise or any nuisance or anything of the sort. And like I said before, the reason we went into Station Road was because we don't want to be near them other bars. We want to be different from them. They have a lot of trouble down there, and we don't want to be anything like that. That's why we're there. And all I can say is I will stick by our policies, and we will only have 4 people out there. And we've not had any trouble. We've not had any build-up of people outside or anything like that. In fact, we might only have 6 to 7 people in at one time anyway in the whole of the bar. So we're not particularly busy. We're not like, you know, you've got the snack bar down the road, and then people are spilling out into the road. People can't drive down there because people were just out in the street drinking. You know, I don't think really having 6 or 7 people in the bar popping out for a cigarette every hour, having maximum 4 people out there is going to cause too much of a disturbance to anybody, really.
Sorry, any other questions? No. Can I just come back on a question? You had a TENS licence to sell alcohol. How did that go? Was there a problem during that week with any of the patrons?
So Carnival Week, we got our 10 on the beginning of Carnival Week. We traded, we had a good week. No trouble, no loud noise. We were just happy to be open, and people coming in, having a few drinks, going, okay, we're going on now. And that's sort of what we want as well. Come in, have a little chat, have a social, have a drink, and then they want to go and they've made plans. So they move on. That's our location. We're in the high street. They come in, have a look, how you doing? Yeah, I'll have a beer. Oh, yeah, I'll have a coffee, yeah, and then move on. And then we had to close for 6 days, and then we got another 10, and we've just finished again, had a good week, and again, no trouble. We only had like 2 to 3 people outside at one time, and we've stood by our policies, and it's worked.
So you've been operating with alcohol with the tenants over the last. So we saw a bit about the Carnival Week, but I didn't realise that you've had attendance for this last period as well. And that attendance is just finished, is it? Yes. Right. Councillor Heatley wants to come back with a question.
You've emphasised how relatively few people you've had during the TENS. Is it going to stay like that? Is your place going to be viable with so relatively few customers?
Well, we hope we will get a little bit busier. It's been steady, so it's been people come, people go, people come, people go. So it's not been completely dead, but we do think we need to introduce food as well, because lots of people come and then they go off for their meal. Whereas if we do food, perhaps they will stay for us with the meal.
Thank you. So are there any more questions for the applicant? I can't see any nods, so we'll now go on to the objectors. Can you put your points of view over? Thank you.
That would appear to be me then, speaking on behalf of. So our premises is very much, as we've indicated in the last few minutes, that this is a bar in a predominantly residential, it is the commercial street. Now in Swanage, if you bought a flat or moved to the high street, you knew there were bars there. And that was always going to be the case. But if you move to a flat in Station Road, and there are a lot of people live in Station Road, including this gentleman here, you will have moved there in the knowledge that there is no late night economy. There are, at the end of the street, each end, there are bars. One faces out to the sea, the other faces the other way, so you don't get any noise in Station Road. Yes, you do get people staggering home, I suppose. And there are licensed premises, there are restaurants, they shut relatively early. This is something completely different. This is a whole new concept for Swanage. It's in a different area than we have traditionally always had the bars. So while we applaud anyone who wants to start a business in Swanage, we have concerns for the residents, for the noise and ongoing complaints that we will start to receive. I note all of the policies which are exemplary, but you have to police them. As I've already indicated, for example, trying to police, say, 4 people only when you've got a crowded bar, which has, by their own admission, they've yet to have a crowded situation, and how you would police 60 people when 10 of them want to go outside. I've already explained the context of the area. One of the only 2 cash points, but there is 3 at the moment, one's about to shut. So it's difficult to get cash, so people are predominantly coming to the Nationwide Building Society, which is next door. You do have Budgeons, one of only 2 supermarkets open till quite late, so you do have mums, people just doing shopping, and that's why this area has always been a sort of shopping type area, as opposed to anything that includes a late night economy. So that's our concerns. And I do understand the applicant has done their utmost to alleviate those concerns, but they remain, because as my colleague Councillor Tritus pointed out, Swanage does have a propensity that most licensed premises do end up having some difficulties at some stage. I realise they're going to join Pub Watch, etc., and that may help, but those are basically our main concern is out of context within the Swanage town centre area, where we try, or have done in the past, such late night economy is restricted to certain areas, which are much easier to police when they're together. I understand the police have put some conditions on, but we also have noise, and as the officer has pointed out, that we can't actually you can't put any restrictions on those because they're not that type of noise or entertainment. So that's our concern. It will be something new. If you grant it, it will be, and also we acknowledge that they do not appear to have had any difficulties in the 2 periods that they've operated TENS. However, the issue here is that they're not really big trading periods because they haven't had anybody of significant numbers. So it's very much untested. And I understand that the 2 TENS would have given them the opportunity, but unfortunately, in a way, for them, they haven't had the numbers, so they cannot demonstrate that under full capacity, all of the policies are easy to adhere to. And I'll just once again reiterate about the space outside. It's a shame we haven't got a plan, because you will see how limited that space is for smokers and anybody who wants to stand outside. So that's our case. It's not against the applicants, it's just about the overall way this will change Swanage, and it will also change possibly a precedent for other shops that could turn into licensed premises, which would be a big change for our community, if you like. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sutton. Any other questions or any statements? Bill?
Thank you, Chairman. I entirely endorse what Councillor Sutton has just said, so I'm not going to attempt to repeat it, but please mark me down as fully supportive of his words. I will only emphasise this idea of location. Swanage is a small town, it's a cramped area, the commercial nightlife area is quite cramped, and people know that the bars, pubs, the alcohol-only places, the non-restaurant alcohol servers are in that high street. And it's very important that this does not spread elsewhere into nearby roads, which are especially particularly residential, to an extent that many people overlook. And it does set a worrying precedent, and I would ask that you put first the interests of the residents in Station Road who would suffer if and when trouble arose. Councillor Suttle has indicated how that might indeed transpire. But that general noise and nuisance is a concern which I'm afraid is likely to cause irritation to residents at any time. And they live in Station Road because they know that this kind of premises is absent there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, Mr. Robinson.
I guess I just want to reiterate the point. I live directly opposite the bar, and the doors have been open for the last 2 weeks, and although there's been limited people in there, there has been an increase in the noise, especially in the evening after 8 o'clock. I guess I just wanted to reiterate those points. Thanks.
Thank you. Right, so I'll now come to questions. So I'll ask the applicant to take on the questions first. Sorry.
It's not much of a question really, it's just going back on what Councillor Suttle said about tradition and Swanage. We want to bring new life to Swanage. We want to bring something new, and the feedback we've got from customers is this is brilliant, this is what Swanage needs. So there's always going to be two sides of the coin. One half saying we don't want it, and one half saying this is the best thing since sliced bread. On the other thing, so I do have one question actually. So sorry, Mr. Robertson, how noisy has it been?
I'm not sure how I can.
I'm sorry.
How noisy, but there's been an increase for sure.
We've just had Carnival Week and town is busy, but I can guarantee you we have not caused any increase in noise at all. That's not from us. And we have spoken to the neighbours, people that live right above us, you know, and they do not hear anything from us.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll have one question first. Supermarkets, what supermarkets? And I know there's lots of supermarkets available, so we've got to be careful. What supermarkets operate, and are they operating late at night, 10 o'clock or something like that?
I believe it's shut at 10, so there's Budgeons, which is, I suppose, it's on the other side of the road, maybe 4 or 5 shops up. And then there's the Co-op at the very top of the road behind the health centre, which also is open till 10. So, yeah, you do have normal shoppers in the street.
Thank you, Councillor Heaton.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to simplify a bit, but I think that essentially what councillors Trite and Suttle are telling us are they think this is in the wrong place, that there is a place where there are bars and this is not there. Now, we can't refuse a licence on the grounds it's in the wrong place. We can refuse a licence if it is causing or likely to cause a public nuisance. And I think that's the main line you're going down. You haven't particularly talked about crime and disorder, and I don't think there's any police objection in this case. I think I'm going to need a little bit of help from our legal advisor here, because it seems to me that you can have bars in the high street that are creating a degree of noise and activity outside and so on and so forth, that are affecting some residents. Equally, this bar may, we don't know, but may create a nuisance to some residents. And I appreciate you also saying that there are more residents in in Station Road. Now, the point is this: all we can really look at, I think, is the degree of nuisance, not how the existing people in these places perceive that nuisance. Am I right, Mr. Crowther, in thinking that it's a sort of objective test of the amount of nuisance? It's not so much how the residents perceive it.
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. So in short, yes, it is an objective test wherever the premises is located as to what would constitute a nuisance. If the committee, and I'll put the emphasis on if, were to grant the licence and there was a problem in the future, then the licence can be called in for review by the licensing authority. Thank you.
I think Councillor Sutton wants to come back on.
I just want to come back to Councillor Heatley. Yeah, there are four reasons that you may not give grant a licence. Four main reasons, which I'm sure they were. And the majority of these they've covered, and they're not going to cause any difficulty. So really, we're just down to the nuisance that it may cause to residents. And, it's not going to affect children. It's not. I don't expect you to run a crime syndicate from it. So we're really down to just what we perceive as the possibility of a public nuisance. And the reason why we have reiterated time and again about the location is the context of the location and the greater risk of that nuisance because of the things that surround it, like normal shopping, the Nationwide Builder Society next door with a cash point, etc. So it will be up to you to make a decision, and the officer has quite rightly pointed out that you can, of course, call it in at a later stage. So, and we've been impressed, I must say, with the documentation that has come back from the applicant. But it's all about this nuisance and how you see that, and of course we see it as a very important factor for the residents.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton. Yeah, just to reiterate that point, that if the licence is granted, it can be called in if it's starting to cause a public nuisance. So, and that's the one good thing about licensing rather than planning. You can call it in. It makes a pleasant change. Councillor Williams, have you got any questions? No, that's fine. Right, so we'll Councillor Heatley.
Yeah, I don't know Swanage very well, but I think it partly comes back to a matter of fact in terms of how many residents there are close to this proposed venture and how many residents there are close to a similar place in the High Street. I mean, my picture of the High Street has people living above the shops. Is that wrong? Can you give any quantification of this?
I do the finance and answer with all those things, but I don't have any for this, so I don't have any answer, which is quite often the sort of questions when you ask them that happens. But we don't have quantitative numbers. There are more than as Councillor says, it's more than you believe because there are back streets and the people live all around. Probably not as many who live in the lower High Street, but then again, the point is that the big block of flats that actually has been built opposite the White Horse, for example, and the others, these all came after the licensed premises. In this case, you have residential area being changed by a licensed premises arriving. It's not, let's just make sure we're not being unfair. This isn't the only licensed premises in the street. There are also restaurants, etc., towards the other end. And during the summer, they do open relatively later, but they are for diners. And that's the difference. So it's a family dining, etc., and they tend to leave. This is a bar. At the moment, it is predominantly a bar.
Right, thank you very much. No, that's it. Right, as we've got no responsible authorities here, I'll just now, in reverse order, ask everybody to sum up. Not that we need to do this sum up, but I'll go in reverse order. So I'll ask the objectors just to sum up. I know you've already said it, but this is the way we do things on subcommittees on license. Over to you.
So, repeating myself again, we are satisfied that I believe at least 3 of the main objections under the licence have been either satisfied or been covered by policy documents provided by applicant. But we remain concerned over the impact of bringing a bar and the public nuisance it may cause to residents in a location that is, in our opinion, out of context to the norm in Swanage. Thank you.
Over to Mr. Clancy, and Mr. Clancy, do you want to sum up?
So yeah, we just like to say that we want to introduce food, so we could become that dining experience as well. That is also on the high street. Yeah, we just want to say that we're going to stick by the policies. That's all we can do. We can't prevent something that hasn't happened, and when it does happen, if it does happen, then we will deal with it accordingly, and we will deal with it swiftly and promptly and efficiently.
Okay, thank you very much. Licensing officer, have you got anything else to say?
Only just to confirm that over the periods of the temporary event notice, no complaints were received either from environmental health or from the police. With regards to the location and the licensing, it's irrelevant of where it is. It's not like a planning where, and there is no cumulative impact area in Swanage either. So there's no limit on how many licensed premises can be in one area.
Thank you very much. And now ask the councillors, have you got anything you want to ask anybody at this stage? And I'll ask everybody, have they had their say? Are you quite happy that you've had your say? Yeah, everybody's happy with their say. In that case then, we'll move on from there, and I'll ask if there's any exempt business, and then I'll come back to council. Yeah, we will do an exempt. Sorry, have I covered everything, Mr. Crowther?
Yes, Chair, I think you have. I just have one question for the point of clarification, if I may. The application form, as you both now personally making the application, but the licence to be granted will be in the name of the company. It's my understanding that the application is for your applying as the director of the company on behalf of the company. Apologies, Chair, just to reiterate my question is that the application form at the start has Mr. and Mrs. Clancy as the people making the applicant, but then states that the application is in the name of the company, and I just wanted to clarify if the application was granted, whether the licence should be in the name of Mr. and Mrs. Clancy individually or in the name of the company.
Individually, I believe. It's under, so we put it as the directors, but if we need to change that to individually, then I'm not too sure.
Chairman, if I could just respond to that. It's the applicant's decision, so a company can hold a licence. I just wanted to clarify whether your intention was that you would hold it personally or would be in the name of the company.
I think it'd be personal, it'd be personally who would hold the licence.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now we will adjourn this and go into exempt business as long as my two colleagues agree. So can we have a proposal for going into exempt business? Oh, sorry.
I'm happy to propose we go into exempt business.
Chair, just back on legal. For their, surely, if they're going to trade as a company, shouldn't the company have the licence? Just the company will be the trading entity, and the trading entity won't have a licence. Just for their benefits of a trade, the licence should be in the name of the trading entity, not in the individuals. I think that's correct.
Flashing. Oh, okay. The licence is granted, it's on the premises, and it can either be in the name of the individuals, as in Mr and Mrs Glancy, or if they have got it in their company name. It also would depend also if the company was to go into insolvency, then that company would be lost if it wasn't transferred within the amount of time. But yeah, the licence is on the premises rather than a person as such, if you like. But it's, yeah, whichever they want to do, if it's in their name or the company.
Just trying to help them that they don't want to end up in a situation where they're trading with a life and then discover that they have to come back for a different name. I was just trying to,
Thank you very much, Harry. So we've got a proposer. We'll go into exempt business. Have a seconder. Thank you very much. So we will now take ourselves away from here and sit in a little room, darkened room, with our legal advisor and our clerk and make a decision. So I would, at this point, thank you all for coming this morning. Yeah, all for coming this morning. Now, I will remind you that whichever way it goes, there is a right to appeal. And that right to appeal has to go to the magistrates at court. In this case, where would that be, Catherine?
Well, probably Weymouth, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know whether it would be a Poole or Weymouth, but yeah, Weymouth. But you have the right to appeal. Just make you aware of that. There's lots of appeals going on because it could take us a long time. Right, at that point then, I will adjourn and say thank you very much, and we will make a decision. We will get out of you within 5 working days with the decision, probably quicker if you've got an email. We'll get Catherine to send it out. And like I say, you have 21 days to appeal. So you will receive that notification, whether you're successful or not, very soon, hopefully. With that, I think we'll adjourn and take our way to a different committee room, Elaine.